In 1946, we executed Japanese soldiers who waterboarded American POWs, right? That was a death penalty offense to waterboard somebody. In January of 1968, the Washington Post ran a front page photograph of an American soldier in Vietnam waterboarding a North Vietnamese prisoner. On the day that that photo was published, the Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, ordered an investigation. The soldier was arrested. He was charged with torture, convicted, and sentenced to 20 years in prison. Well, the law never changed. We changed. So how is this a death penalty offense in 1946? It's worthy of 20 years at Leavenworth in 1968. But then in 2002, no problem. You know, you want to waterboard the guy? Go ahead, waterboard him. You want to chain him to an eye bolt in the ceiling and chill his cell to 50 degrees and then throw ice water on him every hour until he dies of hypothermia? Go ahead. Nobody's going to stop you. Well, why not? That's illegal. And we shouldn't be doing it. Let me tell you another thing. When I was on assignment to the State Department, I served for 2 years in Bahrain, a little tiny country in the Persian Gulf, same size and same population as Pittsburgh, right? And one of the things that we do in every country around the world where we have an American embassy is we write a human rights report every year. And the human rights report is mandated by Congress. So we write it in the field. We interview attorneys and activists and government people and journalists. We write this thing up and we send it to Congress every year. So I was the human rights officer in Bahrain, and I had to write the human rights report. So tell me, if you were the Bahraini Minister of Interior, and I come to you and I say, Your Excellency, you cannot murder 15-year-olds because they marched in a pro-democracy demonstration, right? I'm going to have to write that up and send it to Congress, and maybe they're not going to want to sell you F-18s. Right? Because you did this. You cannot just murder people when you don't like their politics. And then 15 minutes later, the CIA station chief walks in and says, don't listen to the human rights guy. We want you to open a secret prison here. And we're going to bring prisoners and we're going to torture them here. Or you torture them for us and then you give us a write-up of what they say. And we'll give you all the F-18s you want. Who's he going to listen to? Is he going to listen to me?
Right.
He's not going to listen to me.
Right.
But the problem is that what the CIA station chief is telling him he wants is illegal. You can't do it. Now, reasonable people can agree to disagree on how to confront terrorism. But if you want to torture people, you have to change the law, and nobody's had the balls to do it.
Wow.
I spent 15 years in the CIA. The first half of my career was in intelligence, in analysis, exclusively on Iraq. And then I got bored after a while, and I made a very unusual transfer from analysis to operations. I went to the CIA's Counterterrorism Center, became a counterterrorism operations officer, a spy, essentially, and then chief of CIA counterterrorism operations in Pakistan after 9/11. Led a series of raids that resulted in our very first high-value target captures, and then went back to CIA headquarters, got promoted on the strength of those captures, and then just as I got promoted, I was named executive assistant to the CIA's deputy director. That's when we started this torture program, and I objected to it, like pretty strenuously, and waited for somebody to say something. It took years, and in the end, nobody said anything. And then finally, I said, this has to be out there. And so I told ABC News, and the CIA fell on my head with its full weight, and they prosecuted me, and I went to prison for 23 months. Zero regrets, none. And yeah, I mean, I came out stronger on the other end. I'm not it's funny, when you're in your 20s and your 30s, you think you have your life all mapped out, like the way it's supposed to be. I figured, okay, I'm in the CIA, I'm smart, I have advanced degrees, I'm kind of political, so I'm playing the game everybody's supposed to play to get ahead. And in my mind, and my wife was a senior CIA officer, and she said one time, you know, we're going to be running this place someday. And I was like, yeah, we're going to run the place. Next thing you know, I'm like, you know, a dissident, and I'm headed to prison, and then she leaves. So your life's not all mapped out. I went to prison, I came back, all of a sudden I'm famous thanks to them. I never intended to be. And people sort of viewed me as this spokesman against torture and in support of transparency and anti-corruption and Julian Assange. And the weirdest things happen.
What were you doing well, first of all, I've had other former CIA officers in here, and we've spoken about things like, you know, Snowden and Julian Assange and other whistleblowers, and the consensus seems to be among most of those people, you know, former government officials, is that they did the right thing, but they did it the wrong way. Right. Yeah. What is your feeling on that when people say that? What do you think about, like, if you could go back in time, what if you were to take your complaint or whatever you said on ABC up the chain of command, and if you would have done it the right way, what do you think would have happened? Do you think anything would have changed?
That's a very good question. It's a very difficult question. For me personally, I've thought about this a million times, right? I play this over in my head all the time. My situation was an unusual one because my chain of command created the torture program. Going back to the capture of Abu Zubaydah, for example, in March 2002, I came back to CIA headquarters, and I was in the cafeteria one day, and one of my colleagues from the Counterterrorism Center came up to me and said, hey, very casually, hey, I'm glad I caught you. I wanted to ask you, do you want to be certified in the use of enhanced interrogation techniques? I had never heard that term before. I said, enhanced interrogation technique? What's that supposed to mean? And kind of excitedly, he says, we're going to start getting rough with these guys. And I said, well, what's that mean? And he described these 10 techniques. And I said, buddy, that sounds like a torture program to me. And he said, no, it's not. We got it cleared by the Justice Department, and the president signed off on it a couple of days ago. I said, I don't know, man. Let me think about it. Give me an hour. Let me think about it. I went upstairs to the 7th floor, which is the executive floor of the CIA. There was a very, very senior CIA leader who I worked for in the Middle East 10 years earlier. I knocked on his door and I said, I got to ask some advice. I said, they just asked me if I want to be trained in these enhanced interrogation techniques. What do you think of that? And he said very clearly, first of all, he said, let's call it what it is. This is a torture program. And you know how these guys are, he said. Somebody's going to go overboard and they're going to kill a prisoner. And when that happens, there's going to be a congressional investigation. Then there's going to be a Justice Department investigation. Then somebody's going to go to prison. You want to go to prison? And I said, no, I don't want to go to prison. As it turned out, I was the only person who went to prison. But I said, no, I don't want to go to prison. So I went downstairs and I said, man, this is a torture program and I don't want any part of it. Well, as it turned out, they had asked 14 people from CTC, the Counterterrorism Center. I was the only one who said no. And then, here I am 6 weeks after I catch the number 3 in Al-Qaeda, and I get passed over for promotion. And I went into the deputy director's office. We were old friends. I had worked for him in a previous assignment. And I said, what do I have to do to get promoted around here? I have to catch bin Laden? Like, seriously, what more do you guys want from me? And he said, they call you the human rights guy. I said, so? He said, that's not a compliment. So I thought, okay, well, this is my lot in life. I'm going to have to be the human rights guy. And then the guy that I had asked for advice promoted me out of cycle. And he said, can I swear on this?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
He said, you know why they fucked you? And I said, yeah, because I wouldn't torture Abu Zubaydah. And he said, precisely. He said, now, I'm going to promote you now, but the next promotion's on you.